Okay. We just had a great book club discussion because this was such a fun book.
Oh, I'm so glad. I'm so glad you liked it. I hope you liked it.
We loved
Mhm.
it. Everybody loved it.
Oh, good.
I mean, we picked this prompt because I read the book and I was like, I just need to have her in the book.
Oh,
I loved it so much. It was one of my favorites when I read it last year. So I'm so glad
oh, thank
we're
you.
able to make
Thank
it
you.
work and thank you for coming on.
Glad to be here.
So, can you tell us a little bit about what inspired the book?
Yeah. There's a bunch of stories I can tell. None of them are short, but I will try to make them short. Um, so the so if you read the acknowledgments, which is not in the audiobook, which I regret, but they asked me to record the acknowledgement. Usually they don't do audiobook acknowledgments because they like take away from the experience is the thinking. And but they asked me to record mine. And if you guys listen to the audiobook, the guy is a brilliant genius voice actor. And then I didn't want to like come in at the end and be like, "Hi, it's Annie." So I couldn't do it. So anyway, the acknowledgments is not in the audiobook. But there's a story about how Tender Hearts came to be, and that is this house that I lived in the years before I wrote Tender Hearts, I was working on my second book, Unlikely Animals, and I had a kid and sold the book, made a little more money, so we moved, and COVID started, so we I wanted to move from an apartment to a house. So we moved across town in Providence, Rhode Island. And Providence, Rhode Island, if you guys are not familiar, there is the fancy side of town, and then there's the less fancy side of town. So we moved to the less fancy side of town to move into this house. On the day we moved in, our neighbor stabbed her sister. Um, and we made a deal with the landlord. We moved in March 2020 that we were going to take care of the lawn since he was not going to be coming around taking care of the lawn. So the lawn started to grow in. It was 100% poison ivy. From there, we had lead in the water, black mold on the walls, two basement floods,
Oh my
two
God.
gas leaks,
Oh my
um, rats that got into our car and caused $2,400 in damage.
God.
When the rat guy came, he said, "Oh, I see you have a small child learning to walk. I don't let her run at any of the rats because they will charge her right back."
Oh my God.
And then he said, "You have to cut this tree down, this white mulberry tree, because they will keep coming to this tree. They love the tree." So we called the tree guy. The tree guy came and cut the white mulberry tree down, but he said, "But these three trees are going to fall in your house." 3 days later, a tree did fall, not on our house, but in our neighbor's yard.
Oh my
And
God.
then the real last like straw that broke the camel's back was a teenager crashed his car at the base of our driveway and died at 4 a.m.
Oh my God.
And his family would come out every night and hold a candlelit vigil in our driveway because there's no sidewalk on the street. So, um, it was just like I just felt, and also we lived across, so I had my writer's shed. Well, the reason I liked this house that was a rental, but like was because I had a writer's shed that I could, leave the family and work in during COVID. Um, and I could look out the window and I could see the supermarket across the street with the COVID testing line. So I could always see the hazmat suits from my writer's shed. So it was just like I felt like really like hunted by death as I'm figuring out early parenthood. Like the pandemic started when my daughter was 8 months old, and this all took place over a period of a year. So I just had all this anxiety. So I thought I will save the family and I will go to Zillow and I will find another place to live. So I went to Zillow and found the house I'm in right now, which as a rental in a town called Lakeville, Massachusetts. And I grew up in Massachusetts, but I had never heard of Lakeville. We drove here. I was like, where is this place? And I was like, but if we move here, I will write another book. I love the house. I like love the sort of ruralness of this town. And so we moved here. but I just still had all this anxiety because I was like, what if, like, I remember my husband said to me, I thought we were supposed to be happy now. And I was just like, what if it's not that house? What if like everything bad is just our life now? What if I'm haunted? What if motherhood is just terrible? What if? So I just had all this anxiety and I just decided to put it into a book to use that anxiety. Also, the house was more expensive, so we needed more money again. So I was motivated by that. So I sat down to write a book that I intended to put all my anxiety about parenting and about feeling like I'm chased by death and put it into a book and make it as funny as possible. So people always say, "Oh, you should write about the haunted house." I'm like, I did, just not in the way that like would make straight and narrow. So, and the last thing about the house is I got Instagram DM a couple months later after we moved out, and the landlord did do a bunch of things to fix up the house after we left. But I got an Instagram DM, and the Instagram DM said she happened to know my sister-in-law, which was funny. And then she's moved into the house, new tenant, and she said, "Did you ever have any paranormal experiences in this house?"
Oh no. Oh my God. Oh,
So that was one place that the book came from. Uh,
oh my God.
Wow.
That's insane.
So it's interesting because right before you came on, I asked the question, is this a book about grief or a book about forgiveness? But it's really neither. It's a book about anxiety around dying, I guess.
Well, in my mind, the book is about the cat says what life is about. So the little girl asks him, "What's going to happen to me and my brother?" And the cat says, "Suffering and joy." And so that's to me what the book is about, that life is about both things. So you might be in a dark period right now, and that doesn't mean it's going to be a dark period forever. And in some ways, like the joyful parts can't be as joyful if there's not the suffering.
Mhm.
Um, so yeah, it is about grief. I mean, the book is about a lot of things. It is about grief, it is about second chances, it is about forgiveness, it is about people not being irredeemable. Um, it is about yeah, like not giving up on I do like to write about second chances. I like to see characters who are broken try to find their way back to something new. So I did want to write about someone who was in the worst situation that I can imagine, which is someone who's lost a child. And how I just have this question. I think people who haven't lost a child but have children have this question, like, what would my life look like if this child did was not here? Um, and I've always sort of I grew up with when I was 4, my 17-year-old second cousin died, and we're really close with the second cousins. So I grew up really close to her siblings. I never really knew her that well, but I knew this like background, and I always just wondered like how did these two great, great aunt, great uncle, like how did they have such a great full life when they lost a child to leukemia? Like,
Right.
um, and for me, it's a little, and that some of the answers that they uh had two other kids. So for me, with an only child, I'm like, I don't know, just
Yeah.
run into traffic. But
We we're talking a lot about the fact that there are some really heavy topics in here, right? Like he's an alcoholic, they've lost a child. The beginning, it's like there's a lot of death,
Hmm. Hmm.
right? Like horrible things happen, and yet um we were all cracking up. It was so funny. I was laughing out loud when I was reading it. My husband's like, "Why? What are you laughing at?" I'm like, "I can't even explain it to you." Like, just
that's what I hope. That's my deepest hope. People ask me like what sorry to interrupt you, but like people ask me what would you want people to most, like, what do you want most from your readers? I'm like, I want them to be laughing and then not to be able to explain to the person that's in the room with them why they're laughing because
Yes.
it makes them sound like completely unhinged. So that's what I want the most.
When I was explaining this book to people, I felt like I was unhinged because I was like, okay, so listen, it's like this great book, but like it starts off and there's a cat and he can predict death, and then there's like orphans and like you see their parents die, but then they're gonna get in a car and he's with his estranged daughter who doesn't talk to him, and he's a recovering alcoholic, so he can't drive. And now they're going on a road trip, and people are looking at me like, do you have 12 heads? Like what? And I'm like, no, it's like the best book ever. You have to read this book. But how did you get that balance so that you were not trivializing the alcoholism? You weren't, and you weren't like making it into a caricature either. So how
Yeah, yeah.
that balance of dealing with these really heavy issues and making it hilarious?
Yeah, I mean, I s- some I don't have like such a great answer to this, except it's kind of my way of coping with hard things. And I think it's a lot of the people that I surround myself with who, like that I've just always been attracted to people who've had hard things that went on in their life, but they're able to laugh at them. And so I it's kind of the way that we've always done it in my family. It's just like you have to tell the joke at the funeral. Like whoever tells the best joke at the funeral like wins the funeral, you know. And it's just kind of um and in my experience, people who are in AA are often like great storytellers and like have learned to laugh because um otherwise like what else are you going to do, you know, like so some of it is I think that I am a good listener and I listen to people and I like respect people who have been through all sorts of things. I'm not a very judgmental person. My mom is like the least judgmental person ever. Like she really is just she just like loves everyone so hard, and so watching her like interact with people all my life um and defend people even when you're like, wow. Um, so I I think that and I just like to make like a joke. I will reach for the joke first. So like jokes are easy for me to write. What is hard for me to write is to go through and make sure that the emotional scenes really stick the landing because the joke is easier for me than like to have a real emotional conversation with somebody. Like I can come up with a joke like that, but to be like, here's how I really feel, that's very hard for me. So to have the characters, especially Sophie and PJ, have
Mhm.
conversations with each other. And I've heard from a lot of people that are like, I wish I could have conversations with my dad like Sophie and PJ have together in the limousine. And I'm like, well, good luck. But sometimes that is also what fiction is for. It's like you can have those conversations fictionally and not always it's a lot easier to write it down than it is to do it in real life. So
Did the character of PJ come fully formed to you? Because I have to tell you, I've never read a character like him, and he was so flawed. And on paper, like you should not have liked this man, and he was just. We're all enamored with him. We were
wow.
casting, like dream casting for an adaptation before you popped on. So, how did he come to be?
Um PJ, so PJ is based on a couple of people. PJ is based on um the dude from Big Lebowski. He is based on I wanted to do like I wanted this to be my like funniest book yet because I was dealing with the anxiety. So I did want to do like a Coen Brothers like shouldn't be funny, but it's funny, you know, like Fargo's very funny. It's like there's a lot of murder in that book. Um movie, sorry. And So I had, and then he's based on a guy I met years ago who told me he's so sensitive that his wife has to cut up the newspaper every morning and remove things that would upset him
Oh.
about children and animals. So like that's kind of where PJ started from because that was the most fascinating thing I've ever heard, but and about ever. And he told me that in 2016, I think. So that was a long time ago, and I thought about it for many years. And then PJ is also has a big dose of my own dad. Um, my dad is a character. He is they do call him the mayor at the bar. He is never has met a stranger, loves people, loves attention, goes to, I do a lot of book events and he goes to as many as he can. Like sometimes I will be at some town in, like he lives in Massachusetts, some town in Maine or New Hampshire, and I'll walk in and be like, Dad, I didn't know you were coming to this one. So he's always there. He's always wearing the same outfit. We're talking about 25 events with the same outfit. It's a blue fleece pull half zip, no matter the weather, and gym shorts that I gave him when I was in college. So it's like, it's the PJ look. His name is PJ. So his name is PJ Hartnett. Um, I changed it to PJ Holiday, so I did not disguise it. And also, my grandfather was named PJ Hartnett Sr., and he was like a really big storyteller. He did have lollipop. He made us lollipop trees when we were kids, and he would tell these like huge lies, both to us kids and also to random people at like mostly at the bar. And so my favorite story of his is when he and my dad and my brother went to Ireland. It's the only time he ever left the country. And they drove around Ireland going to pubs, and they're at Irish pubs. And my grandfather is telling people that he is Terry Bradshaw's quarterback coach, which is like a weird thing to say to anyone. And it's also like this was sort of pre-internet, this was the 90s. And but also nobody, or maybe it was like probably it was actually probably like 2007. But like anyway, it was like you couldn't really, no one was going to look it up. But also nobody in Ireland knows who Terry Bradshaw is.
Oh.
So it's just like the strangest, like harmless lie. And so that's like a PJ Holiday quality. Um, and then my dad is also obsessed with winning the lottery. He has not won the lottery, but he is obsessed with winning the lottery. He plays the lottery and he will call me and he will say, $600 million is how much the lottery. Did you see the numbers? It's $600 million. He only plays when the numbers get really big. He's obsessed with it, but he doesn't like play it all the time. So he'll call me and he'll say it's $600 million. I need to talk through, and this is 11 o'clock in the middle of my workday. And he's like, I need to talk through how I'm going to spend the money. And then he will say, well, each you three kids get $10 million. And but your aunt and uncle, I'm only going to give them $1 million. Do you think they're going to be upset that I only give them $1 million? And I'm like, nobody's mad if you're giving them $1 million. And then he's like, Annie, can you take this more seriously? This could tear the family apart. And he's just so so I had to have the lottery in there because it
I
really.
love dedication.
Yeah, yeah, no, he's a determined person. Um, so he has some, and then PJ Holiday kind of became his own thing. Once I put him in the house that I imagined, have him talking to the house, like those are things my dad wouldn't do. Um, and then he just became his own person, and so now PJ is separate from all those other people, but that's kind of how I built him, as I took asked like qualities from other people.
Amazing.
That is awesome. So does that mean you're a plotter or a pantser?
I would identify as a pantser, but yeah, I mean definitely not a plotter really at all. But I did sell this book on 100 pages, so if I sold it to the same editor, so I could stay at the publisher. I needed the money to stay in this house, so sold it on 100 pages. Did not have any more of the book. I had 100 pages. So usually most of the time you can't sell a book on 100 pages anyway. Like usually they make a fiction writer to write the whole thing. But I had a good enough track record, and I don't know, they were going to let me do it. So I gave them 100 pages, but they thought I had the whole thing, or they thought I would have known what happens at the end. I had no idea. But they made me write a synopsis of what happens. So I just I wanted to sell the book, so I took a guess. I have not looked at that since, but I do not think it matches up at all with what ends up happening. Because I just, the question of like, who is Michelle Cobb? I knew that that could be a satisfying answer. I could do it a couple ways. Like, it wasn't like it had to be that way. The thing I did know that it had to be was how the last scene with Ivy and the cat.
Okay.
So I knew that by the time I had written 100 pages. I did not know that like before I had written a big chunk of it, but I was like, oh, okay, this makes total sense. Because I knew that there was going to be tension for the reader no matter what I did, that Pancakes and PJ appears to be having given up on life anyway. So uh,
Right.
yeah. So I was like, oh, of course. So I knew that, but there were other things I didn't know.
That was our question. We wondered if you had ever thought about the cat actually coming for PJ.
I did want to play with it, but I didn't want like the book had like the kids I because it happens on the page with what the kids have been through, which I wanted to do because I really wanted to write like a really fun poisoning scene. Like I love Shirley Jackson's poisoning, which is like a little different. It's different fun. Like, We've Always Lived in the Castle. If you guys haven't read that, that's such a good book. So I wanted to do a poisoning. And I love to just play with dominoes. So like nothing gives me more pleasure than like if I can write a chapter and a bunch of things happen. And if one of them happened a little bit differently, none of it happens. So that was like, once I had this voice that I was like this omniscient voice that I can tell you like what's happening in the town and like what the teacher says, what the nurse says, like it just, the wide lens of it gave me so much freedom. So I really, really like to do scenes like that. Like, and then, what happens later with the soap opera convention, it's the same kind of thing as like, and the shopping mall, like when my agent calls them set pieces. I like to do these like big, they're kind of cinematic, um, like chapters that I can't get away with it like every time, but I love to do them. So anyway, I wanted to write that. Um, but then it's really like some people don't keep reading the book after chapter 3, and I'm like, okay, well, that's fine. It is dark. But but I knew that the kids had been through this really, really difficult thing. So I couldn't like then go and kill PJ because that's not really like, I don't write to make people miserable. So I wanted to make sure that like the kids were safe, even though there's like this, is he dead or not? Or like, is he gonna die or not? There is something that I cut out of the book that I can tell you guys that is in the electric chair scene. I originally had a longer explanation about, or an explanation at all, there is no explanation about how the shocked his arrhythmia back into proper rhythm, because that's how you can cure arrhythmia, is you can electric shock people. So I was like, but that's too like neat and obvious. And but the electric chair may have helped save him. He also like needed something to live for. I
Mhm.
get some flack sometimes for people, or when the book first came out. I don't get it here as much anymore, but people used to get upset when the book first came out and being like, "You call him an old man, and he's not old. He's 63." I'm like, PJ is old because he's given up on life. He's waiting to die. So if something makes somebody old, that is it. Like, and I do not think that applies to many 63-year-olds, but PJ is old. Like, I don't think Ivy's old, but PJ is waiting to die. So, He's the same as a 98-year-old who's like, just like disappointed to wake up every morning.
Okay.
Um, and anyway, so yeah, I'm sort of rambling now. But PJ is yeah, PJ had to be safe in some way
Did
for the
you
kid's sake.
I like that.
did you know that Luna's father was always going to be the soap star? Because I didn't see, I was like, there's no way that this little girl's
So
father.
that's the last thing I added.
Okay.
Um, I almost like left it undone because and actually it was really like about to go to print. And then I was like, I don't know. I know I'm cutting the book right when you find out that Ivy has cancer. And I had intended to write a wedding scene. And then I was like, oh no, that last line is so good. It has to be that. Like it can't go any further. So I was like, I don't know. I think it should be. And then I had a friend who said, well, it's obviously it is. Like they don't look alike. It like she's right. And I was like, "Oh, I'm so glad that you think that she's right because one reason I love to write children is just because I mean, my daughter's like this too. She's 6. They're always like, "You don't listen to me." And like and sometimes they're right. Like we don't always listen to them
Yeah.
because they want cookies for breakfast, like, but it's also like, but sometimes they're right and we should listen to them. And so Luna, especially being older than 6, is like, she's like, nobody listens to me. And so for the first time, part of the reason this journey goes so well is somebody listens to Luna, even if it's Crackpot
Yeah.
PJ, who's
Right.
like, he's just like, I respect you, kid. Like, sure, I can, if that's what you want, you deserve it. And so that's why PJ is like the perfect guy for the job because he's going to entertain the crazy idea that this kid has. And then it's so satisfying. Like, I realized once I was like, oh, it really is possible that he could be the dad. So like, why wouldn't he be the dad? And so I wrote the like little paragraph and I was like, oh, that's actually very fun that Luna's right and it doesn't change, how the custody situation is gonna, it
Right.
just, um, so it all like worked out for me once I was gonna end it because it just sort of ends right where like I wasn't gonna get the test results back yet and you were gonna, but
Right.
then I was like, oh no, it's so much more fun if you know that she is. Yeah.
And when the baseball bat scene where she was gonna like come in
Yeah.
Yeah.
and then like, they
Yeah.
reminded her, no, like he's paying your child support. Okay, fine.
Yeah, yeah. Anything I can do with Luna, like, being a little bit off the uh, you know, just yes, she's a lot of fun to write where I can.
She's
No,
a fun
no,
character.
we love that, and we were discussing as a group the fact that it was very satisfying that she was right, but it wouldn't have mattered for the story because all that mattered was that somebody just finally listened to her,
Yeah,
right?
yeah, yeah,
Finally.
yeah,
It
yeah.
was the bonus of like, and she was right.
Yes,
So
yeah. Yeah, yeah, it was a bonus. Like I felt that way too. I was like, it's a bonus. And like, why wouldn't I give a bonus? But yeah, I didn't feel that it was necessary to what happened going forward.
Why did you choose to keep for Sophie to know that her mom had cancer, but to keep that from the readers?
Um, well, because otherwise it ruins the tension of like what's the cat do? Like, I think it would change everything in terms of the way like it's difficult to do, right? To have a character that's keeping a secret, but you have access to her thoughts. Um, but I think Sophie is trying to distract herself enough that I'm not always in her head. You can't pull it off if you're always in her head. Um, but everyone has always kept things from PJ because they cut things out of the newspaper because that's what he says he needs. And so they have kept the cancer from PJ because he says he can't handle things like that. And also because they think he will make it all about him.
Right.
So he has to kind of go through this experience with the children and kind of grow up on like getting out of Pondville and being an adult in some ways for the first time in a long time in order to then step up, like to be told what's really happening. And then he can surprise Sophie and his wife or ex-wife. But I don't think if he was told at the beginning, then he could have. So PJ has to not know. And if Sophie knows, then it would be more a book about grief. And I wanted it to be more a book about like trying to raise children in a way, in a like the quote is like at the beginning, it's like in a world where doom and disaster lurk around every corner. And I didn't want it to be so much about like a parent dying. I've written two books that are very much about parents dying. Um, so I wanted to be in the background. And also she's pissed because she's been cut out too of the whole thing. So she's trying not to think about it because she's been cut out of it. So but yeah, that is a very tricky line to walk with Sophie because it has to be believable that she's not thinking about it in the moments that we're in her head. Um,
Right, because she's keeping a secret and yet she's a completely reliable narrator. So,
right, right. And she thinks about her mom and she thinks about Fred and she thinks about like the lies, but like she doesn't directly say what's actually happening.
right.
Um,
Where did you come up with the idea for Pancake?
so Pancakes is based on a cat named Oscar, who is a real was a real cat who died in 2022, which is about when I started writing the book. And he was a cat who could predict death. And he predicted, so he worked at, he and his brother both were the cats at a nursing home in Providence, Rhode Island and or actually Pawtucket, Rhode Island, but it's like a little suburb of Providence, so easier to say Providence. And he and shortly after they adopted him, they discovered that he was in the rooms of people that were passing away shortly thereafter, and he predicted over 100 deaths when he was there. And so the doctor wrote a book about him, which I didn't read, but I like, so I just knew the basics of it and was kind of like, this is incredible, but also what if they didn't want him to, because the headline that is in the first chapter that said nursing home cat predicts death, provides comfort at end is something that I like took right out of the newspaper. And everybody loved this cat and like loved the idea of this cat giving comfort to people. But I was just like, what if people don't want that? What if people don't want to know that they're going to die even when they're
Right,
about to die,
right, right, right.
even when they're in the nursing home? Like, so I just kind of wrote that first chapter, kind of having fun with it. And I was like, oh, this could actually be something. Um, and then it was just so fun to have him, it keeps the book, like road trip books are hard to do because you're going somewhere and you can't really collect characters along the way. Like you can only develop the characters who are in the car. So minor characters can't repeat unless someone's chasing you, which is not that kind of book. And so there's like some limitations of road trip books and like you can't like the setting has to like the settings are brief. You have to and it can't just be like they're at another Days Inn. It looks the same as the last Days Inn. So like everything there's just like challenges. Um, but so having the cat like prevented things from ever getting boring because I was like, I can just kill somebody. Who's gonna die? So I had this chart on my wall that was like who dies and how they die,
Oh no.
just to try to make sure that I had like all my bases covered.
That's like morbidly hilarious.
And morbidly hilarious describes the whole book.
Do you want
Yeah.
to? So one of our book club members pointed out,
Renee.
Renee, way to go, Renee, that orange was symbolism throughout the book. And
We didn't
we
catch
did
it, but
not.
she listed off all these
Oh,
different orange things that happened in the book and right before something
right before
bad was
something bad happened.
So in The Godfather, you see oranges right before someone dies. So I don't know if I did that intentionally, like I might have, but like I'm not sure. But like my husband and I did talk about that I did want there to be. So I don't know if I did that on purpose. Let's just say I did. But
well, we were all shocked.
Yeah,
uh,
because she
But
said,
we talked about it. He was like, if you ever see oranges on the table, like someone's about to get shot. Someone's about to get. So,
oh,
that's what happens in the movies. So,
I
um,
don't know that either.
huh.
so maybe.
Oh my gosh, that's
Well,
Maybe because I do know that. So like I
subconscious.
was thinking about that as I was working on the book. So maybe and maybe I just forgot that I did that. I would love to see that list if you have it. And then I could proudly tell you whether I did it intentionally or
well,
not.
she was saying that Michelle's dress was always orange.
And the Texas long
Oh yeah. The
had
orange. Yes. That's intentional. Okay. So there are some like what else is orange?
And well, and the cat was
the
orange.
cat,
So
Cat
the
is orange.
Texas truck,
yeah,
the long
the
poke
dress, and I
horns.
can't remember if there was anything else.
So the Longhorns guy was not so intentional because he originally was a Razorback, which I liked a lot better. But then I was like, oh, at this point they have to be in they have to be in Texas. They can't still be in Arkansas. And
Okay.
I like love the way Razorback sounds. Like I'm very attached to like the just sounds of words very like so I sometimes will pick something that like grammar doesn't matter to me but how the way things sound matter a lot to me and so I really wanted it to be a Razorback but then I was like the best I can do is Longhorn um so that was not intentional but Michelle Cobb's dress was yes is orange for a reason and one of my favorite edits was I never like my jokes never get edited. They either get cut or they like no one ever helps me make it a better joke. So I really liked my agent was like when you meet Michelle Cobb, she said I said she looked like a pretty glass of orange juice. And she said, just call her a pretty glass of juice. And I was like, oh, that is much better. It's like a very subtle joke, like a small joke. But I just like liked that edit as like a really small like detail. I was like, she looks like a pretty glass of juice is actually a much better sentence.
I like it.
Yeah.
So did you have like a map out when you were, because you just said
Hmm.
you knew where this was. You had like a map. Did you know where your road trip stops were as you were going through or?
Yeah, I took out Google like not a physical map. I would take out Google Maps all the time and be like, how far is this to that? And I knew that I wanted it to end in Tucson because when I was in my 20s, I went with a big group of 20 somethings. We were going to go skydiving. We all worked together at this like outdoor school. We were like teachers, like camp counselors sort of. Um, and so we would go on these adventures and we had no money. And so we wanted to go skydiving. In order to make money, we worked at NASCAR for a day, where you just like they give you like you get there at like 6 in the morning and they give you a 3 minute training about not serving overserved people. And then you have to buy your own drinks and then you put them in the tray and you sell them in the NASCAR
Oh,
stadium. So, and they give you a t-shirt or like you buy a t-shirt. So I think or maybe they give you the t-shirt. I don't remember. I wish I still had that t-shirt. It had all the prices on it. Um, so, and I was 22, so I made a lot of money. Um, yeah. Selling beer to drunk men was what a 22-year-old is excels at. So I made the money on NASCAR, and then that night, because we didn't have like that money was for skydiving the next day. So we stayed at my friend Rafe's, or a guy I worked with is more accurate. A guy I worked with, his name was Rafe, and his grandmother had a condo in an not assisted, just like a retirement community, and a 55 plus retirement community. So like 15 to 20 somethings just went to her condo, let ourselves in. She was not there and like slept on the floor and like on the lawn chairs and went in the community hot tub and like entirely inappropriate behavior. But I had like again 22, like I didn't have a concept of like I was like it's his grandma's house. Like she knows we're here. Like we're but it's like not the place you can just go to have
right.
a party, to have a rave with Rafe. Um And so I just really had this attachment to a retirement community in Arizona because I had stayed in one. So it had to be in Arizona. I also didn't want it to be, no shade to other road trip books, but like they always go to California, right? It's like always like all you gotta go to California. That's where the other ocean is. So um I didn't want it to end in California. And although they do talk about going to California, but anyway, so I had to like plot out where they would go, and I knew I wanted them to go to Niagara Falls because I went to Niagara Falls on a road trip. I did the northern route once from Massachusetts to Seattle, then down to California. But I didn't want to do that route for a couple of reasons. But we stopped at Niagara Falls, and the friend I stopped at Niagara Falls with um, is the ancestor of Bobby Leach. And Bobby Leach is the second person to go over Niagara Falls in a barrel and survive, and then died of gangrene while slipping on after slipping on an orange peel. And in terms of like the themes of the book, that like something's gonna kill us all, it might be the thing that we expect it to be, and it might be, which is like, old age after a long, happy life, right? But like, or it might be something terrible like cancer or something, or it might be something that is totally stupid, like slipping on an orange peel, or like it might not be the thing you expect. Like you expect if you're going to go over the falls,
Right,
not falls in a barrel, like that's the most likely thing to kill
Right,
you,
right,
not like the most cartoonish thing, which is to slip on a fruit peel.
right.
So I really wanted Bobby Leach in the book, so they had to go to Niagara Falls. And I also love the idea, just having a young kid myself, taking kids to like, a natural wonder of the world and having them be like,
whoa. Right.
like, whoa for a second, but then they're like, and what else is there here? Like what else is there to do? Um, or they're like, I have to pee, which is
Right.
So, has have you ever thought about an adaptation? Has anyone asked you ever about an adaptation? Because we all would like to see that.
Yeah, there has been some recent interest, so I am hopeful that it will get optioned. Hasn't happened yet, but there has been interest, so I do think I'm hopeful. Um, but my first book got optioned and nothing. It didn't end up getting made. But it also got optioned in right when the pandemic, right before the pandemic started. So like the momentum we had screwed it up. So
I feel like it's
I'm
adaptation
hopeful.
right now. Like
Yeah,
What?
snatched up and adaptations now, it's like they're just churning them out. So it's great.
I mean, I think we're in a really good, I can't say this about a lot of things, but we are in a good moment for movies because the appetite for like Marvel movies has gone down. Like audiences no longer want those. They want like, smarter, smaller
Yeah.
stories. And so there is a trend just generally in the idea of returning to like the real movies. So, which is very exciting for me because I have no interest in Marvel movies. And also even if I don't care about them, but I don't want them to be the only movies that are made. It's
Right.
just
right.
that's tragic.
For a while.
So,
All there was.
Right.
I
yeah.
didn't see for like 4 years.
Or
And
even
so the remakes, it is interesting to just like they'd be like, "Oh, that was a trend. That wasn't something that we were going to have to live with forever."
right.
Yeah.
It's just remake in Marvel movies, remake in Marvel movies.
Yeah. No, it's nice to see adaptations also doing really well and being truly adapted in a way that makes readers and fans of the books happy
Right,
instead of
Yeah,
like,
yeah.
oh, here it is, another one is garbage. Like they're
Right.
keeping the
right,
soul of the
right.
stories alive. So I feel
Yeah,
like
yeah.
this is the time to have it adapted.
Yeah.
People
Yes.
are doing a good job.
Well, we'll look for that. We're very exciting.
Mhm.
I hope it happens. I'll tell you guys when I know myself.
Can you tell us what you're working on now?
Yeah, I mean I'm working on a book. I'm not done with it or ready to tell people the like sort of punchline
Okay.
or the but I am working hard on it. It is like, they're all going to be dark comedies from here until forever. So I don't really know how to do something else. And I don't have an interest in doing something else. I want to do it differently each time, but so it's another family who's they're messed up for some reasons, and then and then there's some other stuff that goes on in another town in Massachusetts. I do kind of want to. I don't know about writing a sequel of Tender Hearts, but I really like, now I live permanently, or as permanent as, in Lakeville. We bought the house that we rented. So this house like saved me in a lot of ways. Or I just feel really attached to it. So we ended up buying it. The landlord wanted to sell it to us, so it all like, kind of lined up. And and I would love to write more about, so the next book's not set in this town, it's set in a nearby town, but I would love to write about Pondville again because I'm like putting the mermaid in the pond, like all those, like having the vultures talk, like those things were so fun for me, and I can't do them in every town. Um, so I would like to, maybe write in the same universe, or at least, but I'll be back in Massachusetts is
I love
kind
that.
of that.
Yeah.
Um,
Wow.
yeah.
This was fantastic.
Hmm.
We realize that we've kept you a lot more than what we said we were going
Oh,
to.
that's okay. That's my fault. I always talk too much.
Which we apologize. We do that a lot, but this was fantastic. Before we go, does anyone have any questions that we did not get to? I think,
I don't even know where there's three
where's
in
the
the
chat?
chat.
Being originally from Buffalo, New York, I love the Niagara Falls sign. Yes, me too. I'm Canadian. So
Oh, see that?
so
Yeah, yeah.
I have to drive through Niagara Falls every time I go back to Toronto. So we stop there often. So I was like, oh, I love this.
You go to the wax museums?
Yeah, I've been to the wax museums. They're super creepy.
Are they?
It's so creepy. I find them to be really creepy.
Okay.
I mean, they're cool, but they're creepy.
Yeah. I mean, wax museums, it depends on, yeah, and there's even in a good wax museum, there's bad ones. So it's always, and I also like that they're lit from below. That's very creepy.
Yeah.
Like I wouldn't want to be in a like I don't think you could pay me to be in a wax museum at night.
No.
No way. Talk about like
That's a fun challenge.
like you'd
They
have to
should, wax museums should have that like as an option, like every once a year, like a night in the wax museum.
yeah, but then it should be the last person standing and they should like have people in there and like move the wax.
Don't find me there.
Yeah, I'd never be there. Well, this was amazing.
Thank
Thank
you.
you so
Yes.
much and have a
Yeah, it was great.
Thank you. Thanks for reading it. All
bye.
right. Good night, everybody.
Night.
Bye.
Care.